Today on CityCast Chicago, what are alders hearing in budget meetings? Which Chicago candy is best? And what are your favorite CityCast episodes? I'm here with lead producer Simone Alicea to break it all down. It's Tuesday, October 24th. I'm Jacoby Cochran, and this is what Chicago's talking about. Morning, Simone. How you feeling?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm not complaining. I just got back from ATL, so I'm excited. I'm excited for a nice week coming off that great energy of the last few days. After such an exciting weekend, we got to get into the minutia of city government, and that is budgets. Budget hearings started last week. They continue this week, and alders have been hearing from various departments about how they spent money this year and plans outlined in Mayor Brandon Johnson's 2024 budget proposal. Simone, what's on the agenda this week looking at a $16.6 billion proposal?
Yeah, I think this week will be of interest to a lot of people because there are 3 days of hearings planned for the Office of Public Safety Administration and the Chicago Police Department. So this is all about how Chicago is planning to spend its nearly, in Johnson's proposal, nearly $2 billion for Chicago police, among other public safety spending as well. It's interesting because, and we've talked about this on the show, right? The police budget is increasing by a little bit. A lot of that has to do with employee raises. Folks may have seen too, late last week, the city just signed a contract with the Fraternal Order of Police, guaranteeing more raises through the next few years. And it's been interesting because we've had a couple of things kind of converging at the same time that are all related. The new police superintendent, Larry Snelling, did a round of interviews last week with different publications and sort of is walking this tightrope of, police need to be more aggressive. He said that in one interview with WGN. He was like, officers, police need to be more aggressive in policing crime, but also trying to say, we're working on reforms or we're working on training. We want to make sure we do this training right. I think one of the quotes was aggressive constitutional policing, which is
an oxymoron if I've heard one.
It is certainly, if nothing else, a very, very tight rope that Snelling is trying to walk, a razor thin rope there. The other thing that happened last week is there were other budget hearings for other departments that include some public safety initiatives that Johnson is trying to kind of get off the ground here. So, for example, alders heard from the department head for family and support services where there's this push to get more youth in jobs, and alders asked about initiatives specifically to get youth in jobs, training young people as to do like violence intervention and that kind of thing, right?
Like so peacekeeper work, which
exactly
the young people from Good Kids, Mad City have been pushing in their peace book saying, hey, you have violence prevention workers, you have youth who are connected in these communities. Employ them, give them resources, and give them jobs to help be a public safety initiative. And Brandon Johnson said he wants to do that, as well as to beef up the treatment, not trauma movement, which is to hire more social workers, EMTs, crisis prevention specialists to stand in instead of police in some of these responses.
Yeah, this is sort of the central part of what we're going to hear about over the next 3 days is converting positions in the police department to be civilian positions. So they don't have to be sworn officers who are working in those positions, right? That opens it up. That allows sworn officers to do things like patrolling and things that we would expect officers to do. The other part of that is, as you said, hiring more non-police responders, social workers, mental health workers, to do emergency response work. We heard a little bit about that. We also heard about the reopening of a couple of public city-run mental health clinics when the Department of Public Health had its budget hearing last week. But what's interesting about both of those departments where we have some sort of public safety adjacent initiatives that Johnson is trying to get off the ground is both of those departments are departments that are kind of struggling with financing a little bit. City budgets are always every budget is complicated, right? You're taking money from one place to use it somewhere else, and some of the money you can't take, like you have to use this money for this particular thing in this particular department in this way.
One of the things I've really had to accept in Johnson's early tenure is, despite what the campaign rhetoric was, despite, his previous stances in terms of how he felt the police budget was inflated during his time as an organizer, that's not the rhetoric you can expect to hear from the mayor, especially during this budget proposal season. He is trying extremely hard to both appease police with everything from, like you said, signing a new contract, expanding detective hirings, making sure that the budget didn't go down. But then on the other hand, he's trying to make sure that his supporters understand that he's still working within that system to try to bring things like treatment, not trauma, more peacekeepers hired, providing more civilian offices. But this idea of walking the line isn't going to make either side feel that, the mayor has leaned in on either, fully supporting police as, one side wants, or, reinvesting from police, which doesn't seem to be the movement either. And so I think, all right, sure, right, I get it. You want everyone to be happy, which means no one will be happy.
Which no one will be
Understood.
happy. That's city government in a nutshell, right? And I think
exactly
that's budgeting in a nutshell. It is, it is the work of compromise. One other thing that I kind of wanted to that are on the agenda this week in City Hall that folks might be interested in. There will be a hearing about the Department of Environment. Chicago doesn't currently have an environment department. We've talked about this on the show, but alders will be hearing about the proposal to create one, which is in Johnson's 2024 budget plan.
I just wonder what kind of teeth would a Department of Environment have. We've had this conversation before, but last week I heard the Department Inspector General just saying, hey, our budget is very tiny. We're a critical service, but we're running out of space. We need to make more hires, and we need the departments we are to be overseeing to collect better data. And so when we look at these agencies created by the city to essentially be watchdogs, to be accountability offices, it doesn't seem like a lot of them have the infrastructure and the money they need to do their jobs. And so I hope that this Department of Environment isn't just an idea realized, but, an agency that really can tackle the challenges that our neighborhood face every day.
Although, again, that is like the critical debate about a budget. Do you spend the money to provide the services that you promised to provide at a level that is commensurate with what the residents of Chicago deserve, right? Is that where do we focus the money on actually providing those services, garbage pickup, water, making sure that we have funding for housing and things like that? And then how much money do you spend to oversee how well those services are being, right? How well those services are being provided to the city? That's a really tough argument to make, I think. I mean, obviously, both are important. You need both. You need both the services to be at a high level, and you need accountability to make sure that those services are actually being provided. But when you have a finite amount of money, how do you allocate those things to make sure both are strong? That is like one of the hardest questions of governance and government financing, I think. And so you've really hit on something that is like, I don't know. And are we going to do it with a new department in one budget cycle? That's tough to say.
I understand for listeners, this can be a very confusing time. Hell, it could even be a very boring time. But anything you care about in this city, critical services, the future of migrant resources, how the city is going to pay for that will continue to be up for debate and under scrutiny in the coming weeks. And so, the Johnson administration hopes that this passes before Thanksgiving, but it doesn't have to pass until the end of the year. And so, stay tapped in. Make sure you subscribe to our daily newsletter, Hey Chicago, and you can subscribe for that at chicago.citycast.fm. Simone, did you know that some of the country's most beloved candies got their start right here in Chicago?
Not really, no, actually. I actually did not realize how much candy history was in Chicago until very recently until right before we recorded this. So,
well, our friends over at WTTW are running a Chicago candy bracket ahead of Halloween, of course. So, we love a good bracket over here. We love a good tournament style conversation. And so, Simone, what's your number one pick of the 8 options they got? You want me to run through them, or you going to go through the options?
I'll go through the options just to give folks a sense of what we've got going on. So we've got Laffy Taffy versus Brock's Candy Corn, Baby Ruth versus Butterfinger.
That's a toughie.
Milky Way versus Snickers, and Frango Mints versus Tootsie Rolls. Number one, I think in my heart, I think just by a landslide, to be honest. Like I have such strong opinions about
a landslide.
About
I need to.
I have such strong opinions. Snickers. Snickers is number one. In case folks are like, I didn't know Snickers was from Chicago. Mars, Snickers is from the Mars Company, which opened up a Chicago factory shortly after it was founded. A very large factory that ran on the west side of Chicago. And so Snickers and Milky Way both have those roots there. But I think Snickers is far and away number one pick. Number one I just think it's the superior candy. I literally had a moment recently, Jacoby, where I was so hungry and like the only thing around was a Snickers bar, and I ate it and I felt so much better. Like I was literally the commercial. It was the commercial.
Nah, I hear what you're saying. I mean, marketing, commercials, whooping everyone on his ass.
True.
I think that's the toughest matchup. I do think Milky Way versus Snickers of these other ones is the toughest matchup, because I think Laffy Taffy is walking candy corn. Like straight walking them down.
I hate candy corn. I agree with you. I 100% agree with you. However, candy corn lovers are going to be in our comments, Jacoby.
I don't even understand how it's in business.
I have so many candy corn lovers in my life. I don't know how I ended up this way. I don't know what this says about me. They go so hard for candy corn. So I wonder if the candy corn lovers are going to come out to beat the Laffy Taffy, because Laffy Taffy, I prefer it, but it is like an inferior version of regular taffy. Like, let's be honest here. Like, it's not.
Hey, Laffy Taffy is so good. I'm to this day a $3-4 gas station Laffy Taffy. I'm gonna grab me a grape. I'm gonna grab me a secret. And then I'm gonna see what else they got. Maybe a watermelon or strawberry.
And for folks wondering about, again, the Chicago roots, according to WTTW, the company that makes Laffy Taffy was first founded as a bakery in Little Italy here in Chicago, just after the turn of the century. And then Brock's began as Brock's Palace of Sweets on North Avenue in 1904. But Jacoby, what's your number one pick? Mine was Snickers. What's yours?
So mine is a little bit kind of off the rules a little bit, because for me, Tootsie Roll is a stand-in. It is not just the Tootsie Roll chocolate. It could be either the Tootsie Roll Fruit Chew or, if you don't allow for this sort of amendment, then I'm with you. But I'm from Chicago, and if you ain't pulled up at 87th Street on the Dan Ryan and had that man wearing a chain of Fruities around his neck and just pull off a Ziploc bag of Fruities for $1, then you haven't stopped long enough by the Dan Ryan. So for me, if Tootsie Rolls can be a stand-in for Fruities, I think Fruities is taking this list. I think that's one of the greatest candies of all time. But if I have to stick hard to sort of the Tootsie Roll chocolate, I hope Snicker and Laffy Taffy make it to the finals, personally.
Tootsie Rolls were first made in Brooklyn, but the company moved its operation to Chicago in the 60s, and they're still made here, which I did not know.
Yep.
They're my mother's very favorite Halloween candy. She would take them out of our bags as kids. She loves Tootsie Rolls so much. Frango Mints, which I think a lot of people realize and associate with Marshall Fields. And
their grandparents.
So they actually started as a totally different type of candy, a totally different type of dessert at a Seattle department store, which is what I thought. I remember Seattle claiming Frango Mints, and then people here were like, yeah, it's a Marshall Fields thing. And I was like, is it? Marshall Fields later bought that store where Frango Mints were originally created. And it was with Marshall Fields that they became like the chocolate truffles that we know today. So I guess Chicago perfected it.
I think Frango Mints and Candy Corn is pulling up the rear. They should have did a seeding on this. They should have. I
don't know. People go hard for Frango Mints too. That's another one that like the people who love them
I think
really love them.
Right. Exactly. But I don't. I think they're a silent minority.
Round 1 ends today at 3 p.m. So if you're listening to this in the morning, get your votes in now. WCW is going to announce the winner of all of this on Monday, October 30th, just before Halloween. And we will find out which Chicago candy is the winner.
So we'll be back here next week trying to see if they got it right.
I got it right last time. Remember, I did.
Shut up! Shut up!
What you doing? I won on the Clover bracket.
See, I was not finna bring that up, Fo, and you play that transition music. From Chicago's favorite candies to your favorite episodes of CityCast Chicago. A couple of weeks ago, we asked for you to share some of your faves as we were celebrating reaching 600 episodes. Again, I know we make 5 of them a week, but that's still a lot of episodes in 2.5 years. And here's what you had to say.
Hey, CityCast. This is Viral from Rogers Park. I actually got my fiance into CityCast, and so now what we do is every morning during our commutes, we listen to it, and then in the evening when we're making dinner together, we talk about the CityCast episode of the day. It's also how we start every Friday, 3-day weekend road trip. Everything bagel, jardinera cream cheese, and a Friday CityCast. But love y'all, love everything you do. Take care. Peace.
Nah, G, that's finna make me cry. He didn't just say we like. He was like, this is part of our routine. It's a part of the part of our life. That's amazing. I'm very grateful. Thank you so much.
I also just want to shout out the Jardinera cream cheese that was dropped in that as a little nugget there. What a wonderful little Chicago reference, and I kind of want to know where that is because that sounds just absolutely excellent. We got another voicemail from Kelly in Ravenswood.
I just wanted to say my favorite episode of yours has definitely been the Migrating Butterflies episode. I just want to give a shout out to that episode. It genuinely made me cry and rethink my relationship with not only nature, but just the feeling of immigrants in different cities and migration and home, and gave me all the feels. So definitely shared that episode with my friends and family, and want to give you guys a thank you for being a little upbeat part of my day every day and keep me involved in the community in the city.
Hey, if you cried listening to the episode, you should have saw me and Simone standing in Claudia Galino Sanchez's garden.
Yeah, I highly recommend folks go back and listen to that one, which we re-aired just in September, about a woman in Pilsen who has created a butterfly sanctuary in her yard. And talks about how the migration of butterflies kind of mirrors her own story of immigration from Mexico to Chicago. And just a really, really lovely story. The butterflies, I think, have mostly finished migrating back to Mexico at this point, but, still worth a listen. You should definitely go back and check it out.
Claudia was so passionate about what she was doing, but like so many of our guests, allow herself to be vulnerable with us in a way that always feels special. You can't help but be moved. I left that and was just like, I can't believe this is the job that I get to do. So I'm glad that it resonated with you, Kelly. I'm glad it resonated. Yeah. We want to know what's your favorite episode, and while you're thinking about all the great shows we put out this year, I think that's a perfect time for you to go, man, this might just be the best podcast in Chicago. And you don't just have to think that for yourself. You can nominate us as best podcast in the Chicago Reader's Best of 2023 list. There's a link in the show notes, and you can find us under the City Life category. And while you're there, go ahead and nominate Hey Chicago as best email newsletter. If I said it once, I said it twice, and I've said it 3 times. CityCast Chicago is going for the illustrious three-peat. I could say as a Chicagoan, I got my own three-peat. I mean, that'd be pretty cool. That'd be pretty cool. I want to give another thanks to our lead producer, Simone Alisea. Appreciate you.
Hey, thanks, Jacoby.
Before I let you go, for more news and events, including a list of the best places for Chicago's spookiest dates, head over to our website at chicago.citycast.fm. That's also where you can subscribe to our Hey Chicago newsletter and catch up on podcast episodes you missed. Of course, I'm gonna leave you with some good news. Chicago's Halloween 2023 is back with over 25 events across the city every day this week, culminating in the Upside Down Parade at Washington Park this Saturday from 12 to 2 p.m. For a full list of events, check our show notes. As always, we appreciate you for listening. We're back in your feeds and inboxes bright and early tomorrow. We'll talk to you then. Peace. I mean, I was named the top speaker in the nation 4 times in a row, but we ain't talking about me right now. We're talking about the podcast. So yeah.
Is that really how you want to end that segment? Is that really?
Hell yeah. Nice little flex. Nice little 16-time national champion over here. That's just my thing. That's my call it court.